We're Laura and Cindy, and you're listening to the Holistic Horsemanship and Husbandry podcast, where we talk about natural horsekeeping and deepening your connection with your horse. I'm Laura, your horse care mentor. I teach natural horse management practices after working with over 200 horses and seeing how current industry standards are compromising the health of the horse.
And I'm Cindy, your horsemanship mentor, offering a proven and unique approach to creating deep connections with your horses from 20 plus years of experience, including working with wild Mustangs. If you enjoy this conversation, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to us so we can get this podcast into the ears of more passionate horse people.
So this episode is going to be published right around the time when everybody is so excited to get their horses back into work. The weather is warming up, trail rides are happening, clinics are going on, events are starting up again. And so we are talking about the inevitable discussion and thought process around the spring tune-up. Why do we need it? What does it mean? Does your horse need a spring tune-up? And if they do, are you going to do it? Or are you going to send that horse to a trainer, and why? Cindy and I have been kind of hashing out how we want to approach this and what we want to say. And really, I think what it comes down to is we want you to understand the choices that you make and what they mean for your horse-human relationship. And we want to make sure that you're making your choices in an informed way with that information. So at the end of the day, you and your horse are happy in your partnership and the way that you choose to be together.
You know, our horses get to sit all winter unless we live in an area where we do get to ride during the winter time, be it in an indoor arena or out in nice weather. But yet we don't do as much as we do because it's kind of natural, rhythmic cycling with the seasons that we all withdraw a little bit during the winter time, do a little hibernation, a little resting and recharging, and so do our horses. It is a very, very common thing in the horse world where you will hear people say, I'm sending my horse off to the trainer for a 90-day tune-up. And I understand exactly what that means. They're sending their horse, hopefully to a trainer they know and one that their horse knows that they've worked with before. And that trainer is getting kind of the quirks and squirts and squiggles out of the horse from sitting for the whole season, the winter season. They're also, if the trainer's doing the job correctly, they are conditioning them. They're getting them built back up physically for athletic conditioning so that when they do hit the trail, the course, the jumps, the whatever modality that horse is being used for, he is conditioned. It's just like you and I hitting the gym now, so that by the time we hike our leg over the saddle, we actually have the muscle tone and the strength to do that. So I get what they're doing. And at the same time, I think a lot of people do that because there's a degree of fear and lack of confidence in their horse. And they're afraid of getting hurt.
Which is valid.
Yeah, it's totally valid.
But there's also a little bit of a misconception in that just because somebody else can ride your horse and not get hurt doesn't mean that you can't.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're putting all of your confidence in, well, this person who maybe, probably, hopefully has much better skills in the saddle and much better skills in communication and much better skills in awareness than you have. Otherwise, why would you be paying them to work on your horse? They're going to get completely different. They're going to have a completely different ride than you will have. One of the most dangerous things that I see in horses is the ever horrific 3-day colt starting clinic, where the colt starter can get a horse to do what they want him to do very quickly and effectively. And then that horse goes home to the beginner horse home that now thinks their horse can be ridden. And the stories that come out of those clinics about what happens after those horses go home are horrible. And the spring tune-up is not nearly that, but there's the potential for that.
Well, there's the misconception,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know if it's coming from trainers or if it's coming from the horse owning population
Yeah, just the culture of
that thinks,
expectations.
I'm sending it off. But as a horse trainer, and a horsemanship mentor, I have seen some pretty handy horse trainers that have a pretty good reputation get their reputation absolutely smeared in the mud from doing 90-day tune-ups, 60-day training, 30-day colt start because of what Laura's just mentioned. People say, my horse is doing this thing. Can you help it? Well, yeah, I can. I can take your horse for 90 days and I can put a tune up on it and I can get them physically fit, stamina up where you want it to be, all the little
Yayas.
yayas and rusty buttons
Yeah.
all tuned up, sparkly clean, looking like a gem. And unless you're willing to invest 2 weeks with me, at least 2 days per week, in having me tune you up on your horse, you're going to go home and be disappointed
Yeah.
because you watched me ride your horse and you thought everything was fixed. And in my mind, everything was fixed if I'm looking at it from the horse's angle. But I'm hoping that a lot of trainers out there are beginning to understand after watching our peers lose their entire careers over a 90-day tune up or a 90-day start. 80% of the problem is not the horse. 80% of the problem is the person. And it's not that they're a bad person, it's that you don't know what you don't know till you know it. And it's also, if you haven't proven, if you're not willing to invest the time in the relationship, which is trust, connection, and communication in equal doses, you don't have a partnership. And the reason I can take a horse and make it look really good in 90 days is because I know how to, from the get-go, establish and nurture those three things in equal doses to prove to the horse that I'm a fair and firm partner and leader. And now we get to having fun.
Yeah.
After the first couple weeks of sorting out, okay, this is who I am, this is who you are, how do we communicate, where's your perks, what's your buttons, where's your thresholds, all right, let's build. But unless I have a client who either wants to come and watch those lessons, which are powerful, and or want to come and spend the last month taking at least one lesson a week, preferably two a week, so that by the end of that 90 days, we have a fabulous partnership. But most people don't want to do that because if they could do that, if they had that much desire to nurture the partnership and the relationship, they would never send their horse off for 90 days. They would hire somebody to come in to work with the two of them for 90 days.
Yeah.
So, there's that saying, you get what you give.
Yeah. And I think I want to just put in here, I think some people don't know that there is an option to have someone come train you instead of train your horse. And if you don't know that and you're listening to that, I want you to know that because it's so important and it's just going to get more and more and more. The horse industry is shifting massively toward this model because we know that sending horses away to quote unquote get fixed and then bringing them back to their original situations isn't working. And if you feel like that is your only option, the internet is an option. Cindy can help you from anywhere in the world. And it is such a better option. I have never sent a horse to training in my life, and God forbid something horribly physically wrong happens with me where I'm physically unable, I will never send a horse to training because I don't know what that horse is learning. And how can I be what they need me to be if they're off getting an education that I don't know anything about? And I'm not participating in that with them. But I tell that to people who've been in the industry for 20 years and they look at me like I have two heads. They can't imagine not sending their horse out to training because it's so ingrained that that is what you do and that is how you fix the problem. But it's not working. And the horses that it works really well on didn't need a tune up in the first place.
A great deal of horses come into my program that were actually ruined when they were sent off to a trainer.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was learning what to become the horsewoman that I am, before I ever even dreamed that I would be a horsemanship mentor, I did send my horse RC off to be started under saddle, but I went with him. I took him home at the end of every lesson and I brought him back, and it was a commitment. We drove 3 hours round trip, 4 days a week.
Whoa.
For 4 months. And that last month was me and him riding together. But we did that 4 or 5 days a week, 3 hours round trip, because one, nobody was going to ruin this horse. Two, I was fortunate enough, who this person eventually became my mentor. I was fortunate enough to have somebody that shared the same philosophy of me, and we studied under the same program. And he was willing to teach me what he knew.
Yeah.
And so it worked out really well. But I have a lot of horses that I work with and have worked with over the years that came back from the trainer worse than they were when they went. Could they be saddled? Yeah. Could they be ridden? Yeah. Were they emotionally and mentally as sound as they were before they went to the trainer? No.
Yeah.
And some of them never will be again. Because I would say, I'm going to go out on a limb, probably piss a lot of my peers and colleagues off, but there is a small percentage of us, quote unquote, professionals who actually know psychology, the horse's psychics,
Psyche.
there
Yes.
we go. The herd behavior, the autonomic nervous system. I mean, there is so much that has been discovered over the last 10 years we're going deeper and deeper into, that makes the difference between a solid, happy, thriving horse versus one who is just mechanically going through the motions because they have learned helplessness syndrome. Stop second guessing yourself. Feeling stuck with your horse? Second guessing every decision? Wondering if you're really doing what's best? You're not alone. Most horse owners unknowingly make mistakes that lead to frustration, resistance, and even hidden health issues. That's why we're hosting the Secrets to the Horse-Human Experience you've always wanted, so you can gain the clarity, confidence, and knowledge to make the best choices for your horse. Sign up for this live event now at the link in the show notes and start transforming your partnership today.
Riding a horse with learned helplessness is so dangerous.
That's heartbreaking, really.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time before that horse comes across something that it's more scared of than you, and then you're in a wreck. And I never want my horse to be doing what she's doing because she fears what I'm going to do if she doesn't. That's not the relationship that I want. And the sad truth is it's hard to find a trainer who doesn't operate that way. Yeah. And if you do, that trainer is probably going to be nagging you and haggling you that you need to come out and observe and learn and take lessons and participate because they know that that's the true way to working in partnership with our horses toward our goals is in building a relationship with them. And it doesn't work to have somebody else do that for you.
Well, and what I'm finding is that the more and more that we get on this, that we are witnessing and being a part of this paradigm shift with horses, where it doesn't all fall on the horse.
Yeah.
Where the human has to show up almost more than the horse does. When you find a trainer or a mentor coach that understands that, because for those of us who have taken the time to dig deeper into this concept and this paradigm shift of the horse as our partner and how can we be the best we can be for them and how can we holistically take a holistic approach to training them, we're not interested in the run-of-the-mill horse owner
Right.
who wants you to fix their horse. There's trainers out there. Those trainers are a dime a dozen out there. You can find I can find 15 in this valley.
Yeah.
That will take you on in a heartbeat. But somebody like me, I'm going to sound arrogant and I don't mean to. It's just the horse is that important to me that if you're not willing to put in that time with me and your horse and with me without your horse, then I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm in it for your horse. I want to teach you how to be the best that you can be for your horse because my life mission is to make this a better world for horses and the women who choose to have them in their lives.
It's so empowering to know that, if I get into a situation with MJ where I am like legitimately over my head and things got dangerous, I know that that was on me. I did too much too soon. We weren't ready. It wasn't that she threw some behavior out of nowhere that I don't understand, or it's not some mystery about why that happened ever. It's, oh shit, I walked us right into that. Then I'm going to go back and identify the point where things got a little sticky, but not dangerous yet, and start working right there. And that's where I'm going to start asking questions, start bringing in help if I need to, start formulating a plan that'll be safe and helpful to us both.
And you really got my wheels spinning on that because I agree with everything that you've said. And no matter how good we are, no matter how masterful, people like Martin Black, horsemen who have been in this industry their entire lives.
Yeah.
And there are times they find themselves in a wreck.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily anything they did or didn't do, or the horse did or didn't do. It has to do with that unknown part of every equation with horses, and that's the environment. I mean, you can prepare the best that you can prepare, but sometimes the environment throws you something that you couldn't have in your wildest dreams thought up. I mean, it was like everything was the perfect storm, right?
Right.
And so in that moment, what do? And you do exactly what Laura did, was you just, survive it and then come back together and ask yourself, from what I can remember, because often it happens like
so fast and you're trying to replay it and all the pieces, and you may never have all the pieces.
But you go back and you start from the beginning and you ride into that perfect storm and you ride out through the other side of it. And you're making note in your mental process of, what do I remember that didn't work as well as it should have? Either I forgot to ask to bend the hindquarters, or I asked for a lateral bend to the neck and he was stiff, straight and strong. What what in our relationship that we have worked on over and over and over, move your neck, move your front feet, move your back feet, move forward, back, left and right. What part of that didn't show up in that scenario?
Yeah.
And then you ride that scenario. If you can duplicate it as close as you can, once you feel like you've gotten everything tuned up. Tuned up is not really the word I want, but you're knowing that that muscle memory and that togetherness response is there. Then you try that scenario again as close as you can
Yeah.
and see. But
And that's, there's the gut reaction is to say, I never want to be in that scenario again because we almost got hurt. That was really scary. I didn't know what to do. I never want to find myself there again. And that's where you have to get a little brave and strong with yourself. And 110%, that's when you need to ask for help. But what you don't want to do is just wait until, it's happening again.
no,
And I haven't
avoided.
and I haven't, I've avoided it. And then now I have a fear, we have a problem. So a couple weeks ago, I was riding MJ, and MJ and I we've walked a ton of trails, but we haven't ridden trails hardly at all, like maybe twice or 3 times since the baby's been born. And before that, it had been a solid 7 months of me being pregnant and her being hurt. So we just we need a tune up. And I don't have the chutzpah in the saddle that I had 2 years ago, where I would have giggled and rode some shenanigans. I have zero chutzpah, zero abs. I am a squiggly mess. And I'm scared of her slipping and hurting herself because we're still, we're only a year out of a tendon injury. So I get to the barn, some gals are going out on the trail. Yes, I want to go with you. I'm watching MJ, I'm feeling her underneath me. She bleeds out like an absolute boss. She's so excited. We turn around and go back. She wants to bolt home. I drop her to the back of the group. I'm doing 1 rein stops. I'm doing 1 rein stops. I'm doing 1 rein stops. And she's not like, she's listening to me, but her mind isn't changing. She's going to have me do 1 rein stops all the way back to the barn. And as soon as I give her head, she's trying to trot. And so I get off and I walk home because that's how I could change her mind and get her back with me. And as soon as I get off and I take a deep, because I was getting uptight because I was flopping around up there and didn't have abs and didn't have the confidence and thoughts of what if I get hurt and the baby and 2 people in front of me that I'm just going to run through if I lose her. And like all of this stuff is building up in my head. And as soon as I get off, that all goes away. And I step into my most confident horse handler self and say, cut it out. And she goes, oh shit, okay. And then she's totally fine until we get back against the fence where there's 30 horses who are not used to horses going by on the trail because it's been wet and muddy all winter and we're the first group out. And she happens to be pretty high up in the herd and can get them all riled up with a couple flicks of her ears, which she does. And so then we've got horses zooming by the fence and running and bucking and farting and going crazy. And she's bucking circles around me on the ground. And I'm just waiting her out, waiting her out, waiting her out. And that's not a position that I want to be in. It's not a position I want to put my horse in. And it's not a position that I wanted to put the 2 other women who I was riding with in. We all got back and we were fine. Today was the first time it was dry enough. I went out there with just MJ and I on the ground. And we took deep breaths and we walked back and forth in front of that fence. She played with getting the horses a little bit excited and I reined her back in with me. And we worked that fence line until she was bored. Because the last thing I want is to just avoid that situation until I have to go out with my friends again and then put my friends and my horse and myself in that situation. When I can walk MJ down and back without having to do any kind of attunement and breathing and it's just boring, I'll get on and ride her. And when I can ride it without any worries, then I will go trail riding with my friends again. But I will not put MJ or other horses or my friends in the position of having to hold my hand through that when I know it has a potential of happening. Is your horse trying to tell you something? Your horse is always communicating, but are you listening? If you've ever struggled with tension, confusion, or resistance, it's not random. Your horse is trying to tell you something. In the Secrets to the Horse Human Experience You've Always Wanted, we'll show you how to decode your horse's signals, fix miscommunication, and create a true partnership built on trust and understanding. Don't miss this live event. Save your spot now at the link in the show notes.
But that's such a common scenario that you see on the trail often. That one horse who, for whatever reason, I mean, we know why MJ's where MJ's at because she's been, first of all, she's an Arab.
And we used to long trot all the way home, all the way past the barn, and go 4 more miles in the other direction. And she's finally feeling good enough to do it. So she's like, let's roll, Mom. And I'm like, no.
Right. I mean, so there was a lot of things going on in that, but there's also a lot of people on the trail with their horses that really isn't safe for the horse and the person to be on the trail, or for those who are others who are on the trail, be it with them or not with them. And that is where we're kind of coming full circle. That is where others will say, you need to send your horse to the trainer for a 90-day tune-up. But this is where I come from is, yes, horse trainers, I believe that they all are in it because they want to help the horse.
Absolutely.
I believe that's why we get into it. I believe that many that were taught with the old, heavier than necessary cowboy ways. And I wish that a lot of those trainers were able to have a bit more of an open mind to continue their education. As a veterinary technician, as a transformational coach, and as a horse mentor and a horse trainer and a Mustang gentler, I will always put continuing education high on my list because I don't know it all. And when we're living with living beings, whether it's a person, a cat, or a dog, or a horse, each one is so uniquely different. And you can take 5 horses and women and put them all in the same scenario and have 5 different, 10 different experiences, reactions, responses, impressions, levels of PTSD. From that one experience. And so as a professional, I owe it to the women and the horses that I say yes to keep my education growing. And by doing that, one of the biggest things that I have committed to is that I am willing to help you and your horse. I want to help you and your horse. But I want to do it in a way where you're going to have lasting results.
Yeah.
Where it's going to be the most incredibly powerful transformation you could ever hope for, you and your horse, so that when I'm not there, maybe you hear me. I have a lot of my students tell me about a situation that's come up and they're like, I heard you. It was like you were sitting on my shoulder. It's like I had a mic in my ear and you were telling me what to do. And that just makes my heart sing because I've done my job well. But I want to empower you and your horse's ability to be partners and communicate and trust each other and have the deepest connection, so that when I am not there, You know exactly what to do, regardless of what comes up. And like Laura, when MJ gets to that place, or Laura gets to that place because of how MJ's acting, she's not too damn proud to get off
Yeah.
and say, now is not the time to ride this ride. Now is the time to get off, reset, reconnect, get us both in responding mode so that we are setting each other up for success for the next time we're on this trail in this spot and this scenario comes up. That is one of the best things you can ever do. And there's so many people out there that are under the misconception that if you get off when your horse misbehaves, you're teaching them the wrong thing.
So I think it's important to understand that there's a school of thought out there that I can tell you through a decade of doing this and never having that become a problem. That if you get off, you teach the horse that they somehow got what they wanted.
Yeah.
And where I'm with that, I'm like, if my horse didn't want me riding her that bad, why am I out riding her? I should be back working on our relationship and sussing out why that's a problem. I don't think that there's a huge difference in experience for her between me walking with her or riding her. She's not getting away with anything when I get off. She wanted to run like the damn wind, and I said no, and she got mad. And I was better at reinforcing my no from the ground than in the saddle. And that's all that is.
And I think the key there, you know, where some of that saying comes from, well, you've just taught your horse a bad habit. I had a trainer tell people that they teach their horses how to act lame. So if the horse is limping and you get off and there's not really something wrong, then you've just taught him every time I limp, you're going to get off. And I was like,
No.
I don't know how I feel about that. But I want to always, I'm the type of person that, and this works to my benefit and not so much sometimes, is that I want to always look at everything from both sides of the coin. So, like, where might that be true? You know, one of the questions I often ask myself is, how can I prove that to be true? You know, just so I know in my mind that that passes my
Like
smell
if
test.
you find yourself getting off at the same spot over and over and over again, maybe look at that. Oh, maybe if there's a pattern emerging, maybe your horse wants you to get off and then they get to dive their head down and start eating grass while you're getting off because you're not paying attention. Maybe there might be something to that. So that's where I would say always, always be looking for a pattern.
Well, yes, and I also think that, and you touched on it, is why it's made me think about it. Is it all has to do with your mindset,
Yeah.
and it has to do with what you do after. Like Laura said, she wants to run like the wind, and we're fighting and fighting, and bit or no bit, you're desensitizing your horse to pressure,
Right.
which is that's a worse pattern to create than
Yes.
you act like an idiot and I get off. But it's what you do once you get off that makes all the difference in the world. If you get off and school your horse the to making better choices and choosing to be with you instead of each man for their own, you're not going to lay down that misbehaving pattern of she limped so I get off, or I act stupid and you get off and so then you have to walk home. No, it's what your mindset is in the moment and what you choose to do once you get off that's going to make the difference as it becoming a learning opportunity, a schooling opportunity, or a bad habit you're laying down.
We want everybody to have a really fun and safe spring with their horses. And we want the way that you choose to bring your horse back into work to be empowering for you, not disempowering. And if that means you choose not to send your horse for a spring tune-up and instead you choose to get off early and often and put in a ton of time that's not during a lesson or doing a structured group ride, that can be what that means. But if you are going to not send your horse for a spring tune-up, you have to show up for your horse. You can't just do nothing and expect things to go well. And so, what are you doing between the lessons and the rides? Well, I'm identifying what didn't go well and how can I work on that one little piece. I cannot stand, and I will actively avoid and stop riding with people who say, oh, this spot coming up here, my horse always gets spooked. Can you help me? And they say it every time and they never do anything between rides. You are not being a good trail riding partner. You are putting every person and every horse in a dangerous situation if that is you. And if you don't have the support to overcome it, well, then we need to get you the support. Because I'm not saying you need to go out there and fix it on your own, but it's not okay to keep going on that ride until you figure out how you're going to fix it.
Because your horse is spooking for a reason.
Yeah.
Horses don't misbehave just to misbehave. They don't act up at certain things or places for no reason. They are lacking the confidence. Something is bothering them. It's our responsibility to figure out what and take the time to help them sort it out. You know, Laura's talking about being the responsible leader for your horse on the trail, being conscientious and mindful of the people you're riding with. And that is absolutely 100%. I'm pretty selective in who I ride with because when I ride, that's my free time.
Yeah.
I don't want to be schooling somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't want to be putting my horse and I through that.
Yeah.
But I also ride a lot of green horses on the trail. And I'm very selective in who I will go out on the trail with when I'm riding one of those horses. I want to know that who I'm going out on the trail with when I'm riding a green horse is a good rider, a good trail riding partner, and they have a pretty solid horse because and they're willing to take the ride with me and my green horse because they know that that partnership that I'm riding with is going to be what helps school my greenie on the trail. If I do come to a situation where my young horse, who's lacking the education and the confidence, can't handle, and together we're struggling, that team steps in and becomes our surrogate and takes us through that situation. So it's a two-way street, but what that all still barrels down to is it's up to me to be there for my horse and to recognize when they're struggling and to recognize when is a schooling moment and when is a moment to just get off and know you need to come back. So one of the things as a horsemanship mentor that I struggle with a lot, and again, two sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll share the trainer side of the coin, and then I'll show the horse owner side, share the horse owner side. It's frustrating for me to show up for somebody and help them through a challenge with their horse, teach them how to do things with their horse. And often it's the basics. I mean, what I really teach people is the foundation that's going to set you up so you can do whatever the heck you want to do. And so it's pretty important and it's consistent. And I know from session to session, just by what your horse is telling me, just by the way you're handling your horse, if you've done your homework, because I always leave you with homework and it's not a lot. This is what you're working on this week. And I know when you haven't. Your horse tells me, your body language tells me. You don't have to say a word. I just watch. And that's frustrating. It makes it hard for me to want to keep showing up. Because while I need to make a living, like Laura has mentioned before, she and I are more in it for the horses than we are the money. So it's frustrating. It makes me not want to show up. And I hate that because I want to help you have the best relationship you can. Now, the flip side of that is I am also a student and I am studying a lot of different things. I'm studying the Masterson techniques. I'm studying the psychology and brain of the horse. I'm studying bits and bridles, and so I am a student as well. And these courses have me having homework. I'm not always good at doing my homework in between.
But you're not putting a client or a horse in a position where they're going to fail because you didn't do your homework ever. I know you aren't.
No,
And that
no.
is the difference. You're saying, "Oh crap, I didn't do my homework. We're not going to do that today." Life
Yes.
happens. I had a whole ass baby. Like, speaking of not putting in the time. And you know what MJ and I are working on? Going down a trail that we've probably literally ridden 500 times because that's where we're at. I don't want anybody to listen to this episode and be like, "Oh my gosh, life has been crumbling down upon me and I'm failing my horse."
No.
You're failing your horse when you're getting mad that progress is not being made. You're blaming your trainer, you're blaming your horse, you're putting yourself and your horse in situations you have no business being in. You're not failing your horse because you had to take a step back.
Right. I mean, and I guess it boils down to what is the level of your commitment?
Yeah.
I mean, I get that there's some people out there that really just want their horse tuned up so they can show up, saddle up, get up and go, win their ribbons, win their competitions, have the great trail ride. I get that, you know, and they're committed to paying for that service. And I think that's good. I think that as long as the horse's needs are being met and they're not being taught learned helplessness and they're mentally, emotionally, and physically, spiritually well cared for, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I also know how much that those people are truly missing out on
So much.
because they're not focused on that partnership and relationship. And that's what we thrive on here with the holistic horsemanship and husbandry is having a deep, meaningful partnership with the horse is one of the most rewarding relationships I've ever had in my life.
It is a feeling I have been unable to replicate anywhere else in life.
Yeah.
I
I have wonderful relationships with the people in my life.
Yeah.
And not so good relationships with some people in my life. But it's not like the horse.
Yeah.
The horse makes time stand still. The horse accesses parts of your heart and soul that nobody else can seem to find the entry points to. They show you the best side of you, and they show you that side of you that you don't often want to look at.
Yeah. In a way that it's just matter of fact.
Yeah. They're honest, they're forgiving, and they live in the present moment.
Yeah.
It is like, for those who don't have a horse, they don't know. And for those who do have horses, but they're just in it for the goal or the achievement. Oh, and they're getting a taste of it. Let's be honest. They are getting a taste of what it feels like, or they wouldn't keep coming back, right?
Yeah.
But it goes so much deeper. They're just they're just getting the icing off the top, or the froth off the top of that latte. There's so much richness down below.
When I nurse the baby at the barn, I just sit on the mounting block and I let MJ go and she can do whatever she wants. And inevitably, she will end up standing over us, watching. My horse is an intense protector. She's watching physically over us, where her whiskers are tickling the top of my head. Like, my family is in a very vulnerable state. They cannot get up and run easily in this strange thing where the humans do, where they have to undress and sit down, and horses just nurse their babies standing up, and if they have to run away, they will. She's like, this is strange behavior that you're doing here. And intense protective energy. And it is like the most safe I could ever feel in the whole world, sitting under my horse with her watching out for us. She is like, I got you. It's just magic.
And how cool for your little baby to be experiencing that kind of protective, feminine energy. Yeah. Very cool.
So yeah, guys, enjoy the spring. It can be a little chaotic. It can bring some stuff up. Wondering, maybe I'm not good. What happened? Why isn't my horse as trained as I think they are? All the stuff. The spring is an opportunity for growth. And if you meet your horse and yourself where you're at, get help where you need it, and make your progress intentionally, one step at a time, you are going to set yourself up for an awesome summer of enjoying your horse.
And don't forget to reach out to us on Facebook if you have any questions or challenges that you want to have us share our perspective with you. That's what we're here for. And if you have any topics you'd love for us to cover, again, share that in Facebook, and we would be happy to have a podcast about it.
Absolutely.
So if you have any questions about the topics covered in this episode, send us a message on our Facebook page, Holistic Horsemanship and Husbandry, and we will answer your question in a post on our page. You will be anonymous. We'll just take the question and provide our input, and we want to do it on the post so that we can all learn and grow together, because nobody knows everything. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. We want to remind you that we'll be here every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, following the golden rule. Have a plan, but always be willing to be flexible. Don't forget to connect with us using the links in the show notes below.
If you learned something new today, had an aha, or walked away with a valuable nugget, you can say thanks by leaving us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on.